What's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy Dunt, man, back with another one. Today we're going to be talking about a Baltimore man who was sentenced to life plus 35 for the killing of his best friend, following within 48 hours of a 10-year prison stint. So, in this situation, the accuser, the convicted, go by the nickname of Matt, and the victim go by the name of Ty, aka that's short for Ty J. And we seeing a lot of this topic is being covered a lot by mainstream media. It's being covered a lot by mainstream media. We got people like Say Cheese posting it, these big bloggers posting about it, all these notarized platforms, social media platforms is posting it. So we're gonna dive into it because it's a lot of people, like you see in the comments. You got celebrities in the comments. One that go by the name of Finesse 2 times. He was in the comment and he mentioned that his comment was, "This is my type of guy." And being close to the situation, I feel as though I'm more than capable of speaking on the situation. I got a renowned background with these individuals. I grew up with these individuals. I had close friendships with these individuals. We come from the same neighborhood. We grew up together. We went through a lot of the, hardships together, So if anybody could speak about this matter, it's me, and I just wanted to address the situation because a lot of people is kind of I'm not going to say siding with, the convicted in the situation. But I'm just here to give some background information about it and give my reaction about it because a lot of people is raged in the city. A lot of people is angry about the situation in the city. Whenever you got somebody that loses their life, especially, to a person that they deem their friend. And to be honest, they had a close friendship. It wasn't one of those situations where as though they went their separate ways. No, when Matt went to jail, he was convicted of an armed robbery and a discharge of his firearm. About when he was about 17, 18, I believe. We was young when that happened, and he went to jail for 10 years. During this 10-year prison stint, Ty J was the only person that was really holding him down. So when you got a guy like Finesse 2 times that say, "Oh, this is my type of guy," talking about, in this situation, the person that was convicted, and a lot of people, like I said, in the city is furious. A lot of people that's close to the situation is furious. Whenever you got somebody that loses their life, it's a sad situation. But this situation in particular, a lot of people is raged and angry and furious, and myself included. When I first seen the situation, when I first got the call about it, I was furious. I was furious. Don't get it twisted. I felt a lot of grief, but I was angry because I know the characteristics of these individuals. So when we talk about this is my type of guy, without knowing the characteristics of these other individuals, because us as a society, I understand that, we praise the shooter, in the situation. That's what happens. You got this tough guy image to uphold. You got the world, you trying to protect the image, or what you value makes you say that type of thing where this is your type of guy. But like I said, a lot of people nowadays speak on situations that they know nothing about. It happens a lot. Ty J was somebody that was well respected throughout the city, that was well respected through the neighborhood, that was well loved through the city, that was well loved through his community. He wasn't a guy where growing up, he stabbed you in your back. Never did that. Not one time. You could not question his characteristics. You could not question his toughness. Ain't nobody play with Ty J. Ain't nobody play with him. No, he was a little dude too. He was a little dude. Skinny, y'all. He was short, skinny, about 5'7", skinny. Ain't nobody play with him though. Hard of a line. We done been in situations where as though he rocked out when other people didn't rock out. He always had your back. It was never a time where you call him and he ain't come through. It was never a time. Not one time. You can't nobody say that. I know him personally. And I could say that even behind your back, he never talked about nobody behind their back. He never did anything to backbite anybody. He was a real stand-up guy, a father of two, took care of his kids at every football game, at every school meeting. Taking him to the mall, buying him. He was a provider, protector of his family, man. He was a father, he was a family man at the end of the day. And like I said, he was a well-respected individual, real stand-up guy. When you got somebody like Matt, right? Me knowing the situation, me knowing Matt characteristics, Tajay was a way more solid individual. Let's call it what it is. We ain't sugarcoating it. Tajay was a way more stand-up individual than this guy. Like I said, Matt growing up around our neighborhood was kind of an introverted person. He wasn't an outspoken person. It wasn't a lot of situations where Matt had to fight or Matt had to prove himself, you feel me, to gain respect, because he wasn't somebody that was going around dragging his nuts. He wasn't. You feel me? He wasn't. He was cool, chill, laid back. You feel me? Ain't really disrespect nobody, ain't really play with nobody. You feel me? Not saying that Tajay did, but Tajay had his own characteristics and his own belief system that he stood up for. So he wasn't going for nothing. It wasn't something that you was going to say that bro was just going to let slide. Not on no overly tough situation, but like, bro wasn't going for nothing, bro. You feel me? He wasn't going for nothing. So when we got people talking about it and you don't know the characteristics of these individuals, people like me or people that's close to the situation, and like I said, people throughout the city of Baltimore is pissed. I got a lot of phone calls, FaceTime videos, DMs, people messaging me, furious, screenshotting the comments, screenshotting that it's being posted all over the world, and it's making the people that's close to the situation angry. Because let's talk about it, right? During that 10-year sentence, Tajay was the only individual throughout the neighborhood, throughout the whole clique, that was holding Matt down. He was the one answering the phone calls. He was the one going to go visit him at the jail. He was the one sending letters, sending pictures, making sure, he got money. If somebody in the neighborhood talked to Matt, it was on a three-way call from Ty. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't holding him down. A lot of the people none of the people in our neighborhood was holding them down. None of the people was doing that. You feel me? It would have been more righteous for you to probably bring harm to somebody else, but not Ty. Knowing Ty, a stand-up individual, how he was, you don't do that to him. You feel me? So that's why a lot of people is raged, because we seen the FaceTime calls, the Zoom calls of bro in the system, and Tajay was the one answering the phone calls. Ty couldn't stop talking about him. You feel me? That was Ty's best friend. And when you got we grew up in a neighborhood, it was a lot of us, right? But within that friendships, within that group of friends, you got micro friendships where certain people are closer than just the group in totality, right? Those two was one of those, and they had that type of close-knit friendship within the whole friendship, if that makes sense, so yeah, man, it's a situation where, like I said, it make a lot of people angry. You feel me? Because when the characteristics of the situation, it was like, you got the guy that wasn't really standing on, in the trenches. You feel me? Ty was standing on that, on everything, as a man, as a friend, as a father, as a person in his community and throughout his city. That's who Tajay was. So when we got people that's not close to the situation, that's speaking on stuff that they don't know about, they just see the outside and they just see this, it makes people close to it furious, man. And I gotta address it. I got to address it, because bro can't speak for himself. He can't speak for himself. So I'm gonna use my platform to talk about it, and to say these things to try to honor Tajay. This was leading up to Matt being released, so this was probably within that month of him being released. Ty was happy. He was so happy. He was so happy. He wanted to come and get him from the jail, to come pick him up from jail. During his first day of coming home from prison of a 10-year stint, he was with Ty. He was with Ty. He was happy on FaceTime, showing him on the gram. Yeah, you feel me? Bro home, That's, you feel me? Blessed him, got him a jumpsuit. You feel me? Probably most likely gave him some money. Yeah, bro, get on your feet. You feel me? I'm gonna buy you a couple outfits, couple pair of shoes for real. Help you. You feel me? Come home to society. You feel me? Because that's the type of like I said, that's the type of individual that Ty was. Most likely, he committed that murder in an outfit that Ty J bought him. Let's let that sink in. You come home from 10 years. You don't you don't want to have sex, no type of sexual intercourse with any women. You know, you come home from 10 years and you go back within 48 hours to do life. You ain't thinking about nothing else? So, man, yeah, it's a sad situation, man. And like I said, it's a rage-baited situation. Because people like me and people that's close to the situation get mad when we see this. Because we know the type of individuals that's involved in this situation. You know, Ty wasn't no snake. Ty wasn't no bite your back out. You feel me? He wasn't that type of dude. He was a stand-up guy. You called on him, he showed up. In any aspect. You want to call him for some advice, he there for you. You want to call him because you low on funds, he there for you. You want to call him because you need him to pull up on you, he there for you. He pulling up on you. Yeah, man, so us as a society, man, we got to stop voicing our opinion in a negative manner on stuff we don't know nothing about. And I understand that, you know, when you got in a society like today, you got a lot of vloggers, a lot of people, you know, content creators, you know, a lot of publicity, you know, a lot of social media coverage, and I understand that, right? So we can't say can't nobody talk about it, but you got to be specific in the things that you say. You got to be able to stand on everything you say, because if you're an outsider and you saying things and people in the city is enraged, what happens when, you know, you got to see these people or something like that, you know? So when these people is furious, you feel me? Because like I said, Ty J was a loved individual. He was a well-respected individual. You know, like I said, it was a lot of people that sending me comments, sending me, you know, these social media platforms and the messages, they rage baited. It wasn't like no broken hearts. They was furious. You know, it's an angry situation. You know, so being an outsider, we got to start considering these things before we say stuff that we don't know we saying, or, you know, I'm not even going to say that, because as grown men, your word, you got to stand on that, man. You got to stand on your actions. You got to stand on that, you know. So we just got to do better at that. We got to. And then, like I said, it's okay to cover situations, but it's the information, the details in which you cover it. You know, because you got his family members, you got his friends, you got his associates. You know, that's, like I said, that's furious, man. And we can't, and like I said, we live in a society where as though we praise the shooter. We praise the shooter. You know, in this situation, he's not an individual to be praised. He's not an individual to be praised in this situation. And a lot of people feel like, I'm talking about FaceTime calls, DMs, text messages, a lot of people feel as though he did it the way he did it to end up back in jail. He did it the way he did it, how he did it to end up back in jail. A lot of people feel as though because the response to the situation would have been swift. It would have been immediate. Because like I said, Ty J was a loved individual, well-respected individual. You know, a lot of people feel as though he did it how he did it, a messy manner. He didn't try to get away with it. A lot of people feel like he did not try to get away with it because he knew the consequences following those actions. I can't say that, but like I said, a lot of people is saying that when you got a situation where, it happened in front of your own home and you broad daylight, and you could have went about it. If you wanted to get away with it, you could have went about it differently. You would have did it differently. It's like, take into account, right? You did 10 years in the prison. You had 10 years. If you was planning on harming Ty after release from prison, right? You had 10 years to come up with a plan to do it. And that was the best that you came up with. So a lot of people feel as though he did it how he did it to end up back in jail, to escape those consequences. So it was like, I'd rather take the jail consequences rather than to take and possibly losing my life. Because like I said, a lot of people feel as though the response time would have been swift. I'm talking about like Taylor Swift. Like, that's how fast the response time would have been, like Taylor Swift. So he was released from prison from 10 years, murdered his best friend, in a manner which makes a lot of people believe he wanted to end up back in prison within 48 hours of being released. Did you even go downtown? Did you even enjoy some fresh air? Did you even, how can I say this for YouTube purposes, have any type of sexual intercourses? Yeah, you just did 10 years. You ain't thinking about any of those things? You do something in the manner of what you did it to end up right back in prison. Like I said, it wasn't a nighttime situation. It wasn't a gloves on, mask on situation. It was a bro, yeah, what's up, bro? In public, bam, I'm not trying to get away with it type of mentality. A lot of people feel as though he did not try to get away with it. And he was picked up relatively quick. Within 48 hours, so a lot of people believe he did it in a way to go back to prison to protect himself, from further consequences. Yeah, man, it's a sad situation, man. It's an angry situation. It's an angry situation, man. It's an angry situation. When his kid's without a father now. A lot of people saying in the comment, oh, we don't know the true story. We don't know the background, man. This man was a stand-up guy. He was a stand-up guy. If ain't nobody tell y'all, I'm going to tell y'all he was a stand-up guy. He was a father, and I'm talking about a damn good one. He was a friend, and I'm talking about a damn good one. He was a solid guy. All around the board. We got to take more consideration into this matter, if not any other matter, into this matter, because I'm telling y'all what it is. And like I said, I'm close to these individuals, so I can tell you the characteristics of these individuals and to have more consideration for this particular situation. Now, I can't speak about a lot of situations. A lot of the time where we see people killing their friends, it is because a lot of shit that happened throughout the course of their friendship that scarred the friendship or that harmed the friendship. It wasn't that in this situation. Now, I know Ty personally and I know Matt personally. That's not what happened in this situation. Like I said, Ty was a stand-up guy. His character was on 1,000. This type of situation is a situation that you've seen before, because a lot of people haven't seen this before. Coming from a city like Baltimore City, we see a lot of murders, we see a lot of slimy shit, right? But for some, I feel like this one of the worst situations, considering that he was one of the only people in this corner, considering that Matt did 10 years in prison, coming home. This is like some movie type shit. This is a movie. You see this in a movie, like on some paid in full type of situation. You feel me? That type of situation where as though you don't see this often. You feel me? You see it, but like I said, when this is the type of characteristics, this is a situation you don't see often. Like, you got to see this in the movies. You feel me? So in knowing that, it's like, and then once you know Ty, like, you know how he moved, because like I said, this is a dangerous city, right? Baltimore City is a dangerous city, right? And considering how he moved, Ty moved in a way where as though you had to be close to him to do that. You had to be close to him to harm him. Anybody had the ability or the capability to just harming him, because how he moved so militant. You know, he moved he had the mindset of love can get you killed. And this was that type of situation, man. But knowing him and knowing how he moved, when I first heard about it, I knew it was somebody close. You feel me? Just because I know how he moved. He not outside just lollygagging around. You feel me? I'm gonna give y'all a story, right? We in our neighborhood, right? That's me and a couple people for real. Child come through, and you know, he driving past. He stops his car, hop out. He like, yeah, done, what's up, bam, 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 bam. You feel me? Because we had that same type of relationship, right? Ty wouldn't have did that. He wouldn't have just hopped out and anybody right there, or you had to be a trusted individual for him to even put himself in a position where as though something could even happen to him, because he moved like that, right? I'm gonna tell you this story, right? As soon as I see him, right, we dap each other up, hug each other. Yeah, man, bro, what's up, bro? I ain't seen you, blah, blah, blah. Damn, bro, you know, it's all love, right? I straight pat him down. I'm like, yeah, where that bit bag? You feel me? Where that bit bag? I'm patting him down. He like, oh yeah, it's right there. He start patting me down. Where that bit bag? Oh yeah, it's right there. You feel me? Because like we had that type of relationship where as though it's like, bro, you feel me? You know, we talked about how to maneuver to last long, to not have our life ended short. You feel me? We talked about that often. You know, I could show y'all DMs. We talking about not getting caught up in the wrong shit. You know, we talked about that, being there for our kids in the long run. We talked about that on a daily basis. We talked about that. His kids play football, right? He was a father. He was teaching them at a young age. He outside with them, spending quality time with them. You feel me? So, like I said, it's a matter where as though it make a lot of people, especially when you know him, raged, because we know the type of individual he was. You know, like like life is unfair, right? You know, we understand this, but this was a completely, you feel me? Like, I feel like this is what they mean by life is unfair. And this is what they mean by love will get you killed. Cause he ain't see that happening from somebody that he loved, from, you know, coming from somebody that he trusted. But like I said, the way Ty was, the way he moved, when you heard about it, I'm pretty sure if anybody that know him, that when the news was broken to you, that he lost his life, I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew that, or thought, had speculations that it came from somebody that he trusted, that he loved, somebody that had the ability or the level of trust to get in a vehicle with him, to at least know where he was at. You know, so yeah, man, this a fucked up situation. It's a fucked up situation. You know, my condolences goes out to the family, man, and you know, they know the type of relationship he had with, you feel me, with the people who he had it with. You feel me? They know the type of relationship that he had with the people who he had it with. I was one of those individuals that he had that type of relationship with. So like I said, if anybody can speak on the matter, it's me. A lot of people don't have the type of platform, a social media platform, a YouTube content creating platform to speak about it. You know, so their voices isn't heard. You feel me? A lot of people like, yeah, bro, when you make your video, dive in their ass. That's what they said. A lot of people told me that. When you make this video, fuck all that, dive in their ass. A lot of people, I got phone calls saying, yeah, bro, when you get up there, bro, dive in them. Dive in them. You feel me? People on the phone going ham on the phone, screaming in the phone. You'd have thought we was beefing. You feel me? They screaming at me in the phone saying, dive in your ass. So, and I can't let bro side of the story go unheard. A stand-up guy, a father, you feel me? A good friend, a leader. Not by words, by actions. Ty wasn't a leader of words. He was a leader by actions. If you know Ty, he led by his actions. You seen him being a good father. So it motivated the next person to be a good father. He was a good individual. So it motivated other people to be a good individual. He moved in a situation with the militants to encourage other people to move in a militant manner. So, yeah, man, that's my take on the matter, man. Let me know how y'all feel about it, man. Like, comment, and subscribe, man. Talk about it. You know, say cheese and them there. Everybody else talking about it. So if you're a person in the city, man, voice your opinion. Did you know these individuals? If you did, you know, talk about them. You know, let's talk about it, man. So, Matt gonna spend a lot of time in prison, man. And like I said, a lot of people, you know, the family, a lot of people feel as though justice was served. But it's a lot of people that feel as though justice wasn't served. You know, that's my take on the matter, man. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And like I said, man, repost. It's your boy Dunn. I'm out.